Describe how the founder effect may result in speciation. Good questions. Founder effect, speciation. Let's see here. So I know that when you have these individuals that found, when you have these individuals that found a population, I know that you could get a certain amount that is different. So it's sort of like genetic drift. With genetic drift, you could have, with genetic drift, you could have just random chance. If it is a small population, then through random chance, the population could, it could very easily shift, especially if that population stays small. This was something that I had observed in one of my experiments. So what had happened was that, as shown in the results, we got very different, eventually one of the alleles died out because, again, the population remained small. It never grew beyond 15 individuals, and because of this, thanks to random chance, what we ended up with was gradually the one of those alleles just disappeared entirely. And the founder effect is sort of like this. So, for example, let's say that a lot of birds migrate over to an island, and the founders are birds with very large beaks. So if that were the case, then let's see here. So if that were the case, then those birds with the beaks, they would adapt to possibly different, they could adapt to the different foods. So if there were nuts that require a large beak, then they would target those specific nuts. And assuming that the population evolves enough, where natural selection favors these larger and larger beaks. If that were to happen, then that could result in speciation, because then eventually the birds would develop, very different features and genes, not just beaks, but also possibly the, but also, they could have beaks, yes, so they could have beaks, and also perhaps other things such as feathers and various other things. So yeah, so you've got the founder effect here. You've got the certain group of individuals with their own sets of genes. They do their own thing, they breed, and over time, those select individuals and the population and their offspring will evolve to a point that it will eventually become different from the original population. And there you go, describe how the founder effect may result in speciation, and to also give an example. I can't really think of any examples off the top of my head, though. So, I mean, what kind of examples? I assume they're talking about things such as birds flying off somewhere, but I cannot think of anything like that, so I will have to look that up later. So, next, number 5. Another one that has really stumped me. Sickle cell anemia is an interesting disease. Normal homozygous individuals have normal blood cells, that are easily infected with malarial parasite. Thus, many of these individuals become very ill from the parasite and many die. Individuals homozygous for the sickle cell trait have red blood cells that easily collapse when deoxygenated. Although malaria cannot grow in these red blood cells, individuals often die because of the genetic defect. However, individuals with the homozygous condition have some sickling of red blood cells, but generally not enough to cause mortality. In addition, malaria cannot survive well within these partially defective red blood cells. Thus, heterozygotes tend to survive better than either of the homozygous conditions. If 9% of the African population is born with a severe form of sickle cell anemia, what percentage of the population will be more resistant to malaria because they are homozygous for the sickle cell gene? Write out the Hardy-Weinberg equation and show your work. Sickle cell anemia. Normal homozygous individuals. Okay, so I know this one. I do know that, when it comes to malaria, having one gene for sickle cell anemia is beneficial because you are protected from both malaria and sickle cell anemia. So it is asking here to write out the Hardy-Weinberg equation and show, let's see here. So if 9% is born with a severe form of sickle cell anemia. Okay, I get it. So it basically wants us to write out stuff such as p squared plus 2pq plus q squared. So in this case, 9% would be the q squared. So 9% would be the q squared, and from there I have to figure it out. So just doing it off the top of my head. So 3% will be q squared, 3%, this here is a 3%, or maybe it's 0.3%, 0.3 times 0.3, okay, yeah, so it's 0.3 times 0.3, so 30%, 30% P, 70% Q. And as for the rest of the Hardy-Weinberg equation, I will work that out. And, figure it out by